mentioned food prep.
Mm-hmm.
I know you've heard this that you work 12 hours
Yeah.
and not even including commute, not even including overtime. You get home, you have options. You can either like wind down, potentially exercise, or meal prep.
Yep.
You can't really do it all
No.
unless it's going to take away from sleep. So, what are the best ways to meal prep that's evidence based and healthy?
Such a good question. And this is such a classic dietitian answer, but sometimes it depends. It depends on the person and their preference because we probably have all had the experience where, like, okay, that's it. I'm going to meal prep and I'm going to like set stuff up in the freezer. And so, a classic meal prep meal is like chili. So, you make this giant vat of chili and you get 10 freezer meals out of it. And then you're on day 5 of eating your chili and you're like, I just can't do it anymore. I can't eat this. And then we end up going to grab something from a restaurant somewhere because it's just like, I just can't handle it. So the different experiences my clients have shared is like, I don't care what the food is. I can eat the same thing over and over and over. If I just have a portion and prepped and ready to go, that doesn't bother me at all. That would be scenario A. Scenario B is like, I don't like leftovers. I don't like the taste of reheated chicken. I don't actually like it when things are prepped and sitting in the fridge. I need fresh options. So, whatever camp you're kind of in, and this is where you have to know yourself a little bit to say, how are we best going to utilize meal prep for you? And one of the strategies that I talk about often, and it's very simple and practical, but it actually fits very well, is this idea of like a bento box or finger food concept for one of your main meals on shift. So one might be your leftovers, yep, but then maybe this idea of finger foods that you can eat as you're driving, potentially on the way to a call. It doesn't need to be microwaved. It should be in a cooler of or a good lunch kit of some kind, staying cool. That would probably be an important thing from a food safety perspective. But think about this as like adult Lunchables or charcuterie style stuff where you've got some veggies, you've got some crackers or pita, maybe there's hummus or tzatziki, maybe there's some turkey pepperoni sticks or cheese or hard-boiled eggs or even just pieces of chicken from some meal. And so things that you can eat on the go, but it has all of the components of a balanced meal, but it requires minimal prep, minimal cooking, and it can be stuff that's just stocked up in your fridge or your freezer or your pantry, and so it's a grab and go. And so that style of meal is actually very helpful, I think, from a meal prep perspective, because once you've got, okay, I can check off this box, my protein, my carbohydrates, my veg, a healthy fat, bang, 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 bang. And then you can throw it into the lunch kit within a matter of minutes is the goal. So that style of meal prep can actually be very helpful for one of your meals on shift. And then maybe the other one is leftovers from the night before. So I don't like the big cook meal preps. I've tried that and my experience was like, I just made a huge mess in my kitchen. I spent hours in the kitchen. Oh, and now I've got to turn around and cook supper. It was the worst. I didn't like it. And so I'm more on the camp of I'm going to cook a big meal for supper, even though there's 3 of us in our family. So my son's 7, so 2.5 of us, we kind of joke. So I won't cook for 2.5 always, though. I will cook for 5 or 6 so that maybe there's leftover for the next day and I'll get a freezer meal or 2 out of that thing if that's appropriate. And so that's how I prefer to do the meal prep stuff is I'll just make a little bit more at the meal that I'm cooking so that I can get a freezer meal out of it. But I don't love the big cook thing. I've tried it, don't enjoy it.
I love that this is so operational and efficient because we've all done the big meal prep. I literally spent like 5 hours recently with my kids pulling up my legs, and you're mentally exhausted and
Yeah.
drained
Yeah.
to do that. And I put it back into the perspective that if I was still on shift work, I'd be demoralized right now.
Yeah.
Absolutely demoralized. And you'd be like, yeah, I'm just going to go buy some pizza when I get there
100%.
because it's so easy.
Yeah.
And just thinking about that, like, would you recommend an Instapot or like a slow cooker you can
Mm.
put in your macros, like a good quality meat, some veggies in there, put it in there, limited cleanup, and just let it cook, and you can go with your day?
Totally. Totally. Yeah. all of the things. Whatever style of implementation you like for cooking, maybe it's your air fryer, or maybe it's your Instapot, or maybe it's your slow cooker. I like having 2 or 3 go-to recipes for each one of those things, so that you can rotate through. You like it. Again, not every recipe that's great for meal prep is freezer friendly. So then sometimes it's finding, these are some of my go-to freezer friendly ones. I know I've got some of these in the freezer, and then these are the ones that are a bit more fresh, and I can't freeze them. But so for example, it might be like some of those bagged salads we can get, like the creamy dill pickle ones or whatever. I like the ones that have a lot of like the shredded cabbage and kale and carrots and some really nutrient dense veggies in there versus just the leafy greens. And then we'll top that with rotisserie chicken or some sliced up leftover steak, or maybe I'll throw some roasted sweet potatoes on there from a different meal that we had leftovers from, or a can of flavored tuna or regular tuna or canned salmon or something like that. So it's things that I can just pull from the fridge and from the pantry. And then it's a pretty balanced meal that's come together quickly. So not freezer friendly at all, but I'm fully on board with somebody else helping me with the meal prep in certain areas.
If this helped you think differently, share it with someone who should hear it, and follow the show for more evidence-based conversations.